Hi, Delia here. I'm at Care for Dogs Romania in Brașov, Romania. It's winter time, hence the warm clothes, and it's the time of the year when we have to discuss why it's important to adopt a shelter dog. You've had so many questions about our dogs. Are they vaccinated? Are they good? Can they have separation anxiety? A lot of other questions that we will go through in this video to explain to everybody why a shelter dog is a good option for getting adopted. Where do shelter dogs come from? Very simple answer: from the streets. In Romania especially, they come from the streets because people aren't very used to spaying and neutering the dogs. They often leave their dogs running around the streets because there's a popular belief that the dogs will come back. So yes, they do come back, but before they come back, they find the female who's in heat, they mate with her, and that's where the puppies come from. Female dogs usually mate 2 times a year, every 6 months, and they make a litter of about 5 to 10 puppies, which means that if the dogs are born on the street, maybe because due to heart condition, not all will survive, but the ones that survive will grow up to maturity and will multiply more. There is some science behind all this. So one female dog can make in 5 years up to 64,000 puppies. All the 64,000 puppies can then make other 64,000 in the next 5 years. So you would actually go insane just by counting it. This is why everybody who is an owner of a dog is obligated by law in Romania to spay and neuter their dogs if they are not of breed. This is why we also have an ongoing spaying campaign where we spay all the dogs, all the cats, and this is what we do to stop the number. So the number one cause is uncontrolled multiplication on the street dogs, and the number one source of the shelter dogs is from the streets. In Romania, dog catchers catch the dogs, they bring them into high-killed shelters. In those killed shelters, the dogs have only 2 weeks until they get destroyed, and usually they don't get destroyed in humane ways. So they don't get properly euthanized. They get whacked in the head with a broom or something until they are unconscious, or they get killed in inhumane ways. This is why when we have space and where there's not a high demand on rescuing the street dogs, we also rescue from high-killed shelters to give also those dogs a chance. Because actually the ones in high-skilled shelters, they are stray dogs that had the misfortune of getting caught by the dog catchers. Are shelter dogs free? When you adopt a shelter dogs, you should be able to give a donation to the organization that has prepared the dog for adoption. Meaning they have dewormed, defleed the dog, they have vaccinated the dog, they have chipped and spayed that dog. So everything costs money. Usually all the nonprofits that do this, they have the same conditions. So when you want to adopt a dog, it would be great if you could also donate money that was used to care for the dog and to bring the dog to health. Also, everybody who makes an adoption can request an adoption fee to cover costs for transport, costs for getting the dog healthy, costs for making the papers, costs for vaccinating, etc, etc. Rescuing the dog from the street doesn't mean that you take the dog and the dog is happy and healthy and has nothing. Usually you have to spend a lot of money to bring that dog to health, and then to spend a lot of money to make the dog adoptable. Can shelter dogs be trained? Of course they can. This is a no-brainer. They can be trained. They are like all dogs. They are easily trained if you know how to train them. So if you give them high quality treats, if you are engaged with them, if you make a connection, if you invest time, energy into developing your dog, of course every dog can get trained. Every dog can know how to sit, give paw, spin around their tail. All they need is the right training and the right involvement from the human, because the dog is actually a reflection of the human that is training the dog. So there is no such thing as an untrained dog or an untrainable dog. It's just the human that isn't well trained himself into how to train that specific dog. Every single dog that we've come across is different. Every dog needs different things. So if you want to train a shelter dog, I highly recommend that you get specific help and be a behaviorist to help you with training them, especially if the dog is hyperactive, or if the dog is not very interested in high value treats, or if the dog is a little bit anxious. Then you would need some more help from a professional. Can shelter dogs be trained out of separation anxiety? Yes, they can. It's not so hard. You just need to follow a few steps, and a behaviorist can teach you. You can also find a lot of information about this subject online on YouTube. Can shelter dogs be service dogs? I have this belief that every dog has a goal in their life, and of course a lot of dogs that come from shelters can be service dogs if they are trained this way. Of course, service dogs require a more different approach, a different training. They need to be taken in as puppies. You need to fairly assess them to see if they have the right qualities and the right personality to be service dogs. But I firmly believe that out of a litter of 7 or 9 puppies, one of them can be a service dog if given the opportunity. So the answer is yes, dogs can be whatever you train them to be. What's the difference between shelter dogs and breed dogs? So there are a couple of differences. First of what is background. Okay, so with a shelter dog, you take the dog from the streets, you bring him to the shelter, you do whatever you can to bring him back to health. Then you vaccinate, deworm, deflea, spay the dog, you work with the dog, but you can never know the history. You can never know the background. You can never know through which trauma or hardship the dog had to go through. So it's a little bit hard to describe or to know exactly how the dog will react in certain circumstances. With the background, you can never be too sure. But the good news is that you can also train the dog, you can also work with the dog, and the dog will eventually, when you work hard enough, get over all the traumas. But you need to work. The second thing that is different is genetics. With a shelter dog, you can never know what DNA is inside of him. You can have a multiple array of DNAs, a multiple array of dogs inside the genes of your shelter dog. With breed-specific dogs, you know who the parents are and who the parents' parents and so on, up to 10 generations. So if you want a dog that you know has a specific trait and looks in a specific way and behaves in a specific way, then yes, you should buy a breeder dog, because that's the only guarantee that you will ever have that that dog is gonna be as described. Whereas shelter dogs, you can never know. Breed dogs also come with pedigree, which means papers of origin, and in this paper you know who the parents are up to 10 generations behind. So this is something again that we cannot provide with shelter dogs. With shelter dogs, you never know who the parents are. Even if you find a mother with puppies, you can never know who the fathers can be, because dogs can have multiple fathers. A mother has more eggs when she is in heat, and if she mates with 3-4 fathers, 3-4 dogs, then each father gets a chance to insert their genes into one egg, so that a litter can be of 3-4 breeds, or a litter can be so the puppies cannot look alike, not one with each other. What do I have to do to foster a dog? First of all, congratulations that you want to foster a dog. This is the best decision that you can make, and it will rescue your life and also the life of your dogs. We've had so many fosters that have said that after they fostered the dog, they felt so happy and so fulfilled that they knew they were a part of something bigger than themselves, and that they helped this poor, scared dog, traumatized dog, become the best version that he can be, and help them then go home to their forever family. And they kept in contact with the forever family, and they created a bond, and it becomes such a wonderful story. So of course you want to be a part of it, and congratulations. Let me tell you how to get in contact with somebody who can offer you a foster dog. First of all, you can go to your closest shelter. Okay, I'm sure that every single shelter has a dog that can be fostered, and you can also pick the dog that you can foster. Then you can go online and you can search for non-profits, for organizations who can mediate this process and can bring you a foster dog. We also work with a lot of organizations in Western Europe, so in Germany and England, and we send dogs from Romania to them, and they have their own fosters where they keep the dogs, and then from the fosters they try to find a home for these dogs, which is a great process. So, congratulations again, foster a dog, save a life, and then adopt. Now we come to the sad questions. Do shelters kill dogs? And the unfortunate truth is that yes. Some shelters are high kill shelters, and some shelters do kill dogs because the intake is so big that they often don't have space, so then they have to euthanize some dogs to make space for others. This is why it's so important to adopt. I have nothing against breeder and their dogs. I know that they work really hard to get the dogs into that perfect shape. They give them special food, they give them special treatment, they make all the tests, they vaccinate them on time, they do everything. But when you're in a country around Romania, or when you're in a country, or when you just want to give a dog, any kind of dog that is loving and playful and fun, and it's a family dog, when you want to give that kind of dog a chance, then you should definitely adopt, because there are so many dogs that fit this description that it's insane to give so much money to a breeder instead of just taking a dog from the pound and being happy that you've rescued a life. You are actually rescuing two lives. You're rescuing the life of the dog that you've just adopted, and you're rescuing the life of the dog that we will save, that will occupy the space that your dog has occupied until you rescued him. Another thing that is very good with shelter dogs, and I'm gonna say it on and on, is that shelter dogs are more resilient. Because they have grown on the streets, because they have seen so many illness, so many hardship, winters that are really hard, they have been through rain and everything you can imagine, and they've eaten from the garbage, they are more resilient. I have never seen in my 5 years since I've been rescuing dogs that are more resilient and they want to live more than the dogs from the streets. That's because they know what hardship is like, and when they finally get into a place where they are loved and cared for, and they have warmth and food and shelter and a roof over their heads, they are so grateful and so happy that they fight every single disease with flying colors. So yes, if you want a dog that can go through anything, shelter dogs are the best. Plus, I know how good it feels when you know that you've actually adopted a dog and you've actually rescued that dog from death. Wouldn't that be a great feeling? I mean, put yourself just for 1 second in the place of that dog. Imagine that you've been living on the streets, you've been working for your food, you've been searching through the garbage, you've been doing the best that you can to just stay alive. You've been a good boy all your life. You've tried so hard to find somebody who would adopt you, but everybody who you would meet, you would go, you would greet, you would wag your tail to, everybody would just shoo you away, kick you, not want you, and eventually the dog catchers catch you, and they put a string down your neck, and they pull it really hard, and then they shove you in a cage, and then you get to the pound, you're the high kill shelter, and there you're scared, and you don't get water, and you don't get food, and there are so many other dogs who are scared the same, and you feel the smell in your nose that is the smell of death, and you think, what have you done wrong to get here? And then you pray every day that somebody's gonna come and somebody's gonna rescue you, and then you pray every day that you would get out of here knowing that you did nothing wrong. So imagine just these hard feelings that you would have being in the place of this dog. And then imagine a family coming and picking you, choosing you out of all the other dogs, taking you and bringing you home. How glad would you be knowing that you've just escaped certain death? How happy would you be knowing that you have your whole life to enjoy now, knowing that you are safe, knowing that you are cared for, knowing that you can no longer search for food, you can no longer need to be afraid that people won't like you, people will hit you, people will shoo you away. Make this exercise and then go adopt a shelter dog. Last question. Why are shelter dogs the best? I may be biased because I have a shelter and I've seen more than 3,000 dogs go through my little hands. So I have to say that yes, I would agree, they are the best. And 3 reasons why they are the best is that they know when they've been rescued. A dog that has lived all their life on the streets and that has seen so many hardship and that has endured so many things, when they get rescued, of course they will be forever grateful, and they will show it in ways that you can't even imagine. From the waggy tail, from the kisses that they give, from the jumping in your arms, from the complete faithfulness that has been restored in humanity that you see in their eyes, the sparkle in their little eyes, everything connects, and you see their progress, and you cannot help but to be inspired and to be happy that you've been a part of something great. So they are more grateful, they are more loyal, and yes, they make you feel like $1 million because you get to experience this kind of feeling of gratitude also because they have come into your life. People often say that they didn't rescue the dog, that actually the dog rescued them. And I am a firm believer that the dog chooses the human and it's not the other way around. And the dog is here with you to teach you a valuable lesson. You are the only one responsible to figure out what that lesson is. But I am confident that when you have figured it out, the lesson and the dog and everything will click in such a way that you will be inseparable. It's the feeling that they've been there forever and that you never want to have them leave ever again. Plus, you get a chance to be a part of something greater than yourself. You get a chance to be part of a community that is strong, that is together, that is united, and that you know that you've made a great difference in somebody's life. You've made a difference in the volunteers and the organization's life, and you've made a difference in your dog's life and the one that we're gonna rescue instead of in the place of the dog that you've just adopted. So I think there are pretty good reasons why you should adopt today, tomorrow, and to end it, we recognize that when you're adopting a dog, you're doing something special and great, and you're saving a dog from a lifetime of misery. This is why it's always a better choice to adopt. If you have more questions, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode, please comment below, tell us more questions. We'll be more than happy to make more episodes like this when we answer a lot of your questions. If you want different topics, if you want to know more about us and about shelter dogs, whatever you want, just comment below, share this video, because there are so many people who are thinking about buying a breed dog and who don't know how a shelter dog can impact their life. And I promise you, a shelter dog will make your life so much better. So adopt on shop, follow us on all our channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and spread this video around, because together we make a difference.